Okay, so let's do the chanting. Namo Tassa Bhagavato ArahatoSammaSambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato ArahatoSammaSambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato ArahatoSammaSambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami, Dudayambi Buddham saranam gacchami, Dudayambi Dhammam saranam gacchami, Dudayambi Sangham saranam gacchami, Tatayambi Buddham saranam gacchami, Tatayambi Dhammam saranam gacchami, Tatayambi Sangham saranam gacchami. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas. May I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas. May I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas. May I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May they be free from suffering and its causes. May they never be parted from their happiness beyond suffering. May they abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment to the near, and aversion from the far. I shall cause this. Great compassionate Buddha, please inspire me to be able to do so. Reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, and present clouds of every types of offerings, actual and mentally transformed. I confess all of my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in all the virtues of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until cyclic existence ends, and turn the wheel of Dharma for all sentient beings. I dedicate the virtues of myself and others to the great enlightenment. However innumerable all sentient beings are, I vow to save them all. However inexhaustible my delusions are, I vow to extinguish them all. However immeasurable the Dharma teachings are, I vow to master them all. However endless the Buddha's way is, I vow to follow it completely. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Tayata gate gate parasamgate bodhi suha. Tayata gate gate parasamgate bodhi suha. Tayata gate gate parasamgate bodhi suha. So time for some meditation now. May I suggest as well, I've mentioned this before, when you're waiting to get let into the Zoom meeting, into the class, then you can meditate. Do your best to keep your mind upright, calm, bright, and peaceful. Okay, so maybe you can even do a meditation session before the class. Not for you in England, of course. It's early in the morning already. So that way, because we only do the short meditation, so maybe you can do longer meditation before the class, or even after the class, unless you're having dinner, of course. Okay, so now get yourself ready, nice comfortable position, and we will release the tension from the body. Starting from the tips of your toes, And work the way up your leg, releasing the tension as you go, up the upper torso, up to your shoulders and down to the tips of your fingers, and then back up to the top of your head. As we release this tension, it helps us to release the tension from the mind too, and has the tendency to bring the mind inside the body. So when you are ready, now bring your focus to placing your mind onto your breath. Starting at the tip of your nose, breathing all the way into your lungs. Follow the feeling of the breath as you breathe in and out. And as mentioned before, if you want to also include the extra technique of counting the breath from 1 up to 10, 1 breath in, 1 breath out is 1, and so on and so forth. If your mind wanders away from the breath, whatever number you're up to, just go back to 1. Don't go past 10. If thoughts arise, or any other mental activity arises, don't cling to it. Don't grasp at it. Also, don't try to forcefully push it away. That will give rise to more mental activity. And also, don't deny it. Just let it go naturally by refocusing on the breath, by replacing your mind back onto the breath. And if your mind starts to become sleepy or dull, or what I call often warm and fuzzy feeling, it's a nice feeling, but it's not a bright mind. If your mind starts to become like this, then wake it up a little bit by replacing or refocusing the mind onto the breath more brightly. This way, replacing the mind onto the breath is the antidote for both the agitated mind as well as the dull mind. So let's practice like this in silence for a few minutes. Don't be too hard on yourself, but also don't be lazy. Don't try too hard. Don't try too little. So now you can feel very happy with yourself for engaging in this short practice. And fill yourself with universal loving kindness. If you're so inclined, you can visualize your whole being filling with the white light or white nectar. Or if you don't do this, the feeling of loving kindness. Appreciation, acceptance. Accepting who we are, how we are right now. Without regret and also without ego, too much pride. Be humble and modest. Fill yourself with friendship. Because also the word metta relates to friend as well. You are your own best friend right now. Fill yourself with so much loving kindness that it now overflows outwards, radiates initially to your loved ones, family and friends. May they be happy, free from suffering, and be peaceful. And you can be quite creative with this type of meditation too. You can, for instance, visualize them as being very happy and healthy, having whatever they need and want. Now also include strangers, those people that you may know a little bit or not at all. May they also be happy, free from suffering, and be peaceful. Also include those you may regard as enemies, those people that you find very difficult, irritating. Maybe they behave very badly. Wish that they also have happiness, are free from suffering, and are peaceful. If this was the case, they wouldn't behave badly. Now extend this loving kindness out further and further to also include all of the living beings around your immediate area. Whether they live on the land, even under the land, or in the waters, salt water, fresh water, fly through the air, whether they're born from wombs or eggs, or from moisture, or through transformation, or are not yet born. Radiate gradually further and further now to include all of those living beings within your state or county. And other states and counties throughout your whole country. And other countries throughout the whole world. May this world be free from suffering. May there be happiness and peace everywhere. Now have the loving kindness pervade throughout the whole solar system. And the whole galaxy. And the whole universe. And throughout infinite space. and at the same time be present here and now to recite the dedication prayer. Due to this merit, may I soon attain the enlightened state of the Buddha, so that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhicitta, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. And may the precious view of Shunyata, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. And so I hope you're feeling nice now after the meditations. And we are in the middle of concluding the commentary that we've had for the last probably about 7 months or something. Or I think we started it maybe end of June or the start of July on the 6 paramitas, or the 6 transcendental perfections of generosity, morality, patience, effort, concentration, and wisdom. Dana, Sila, Shanti, Virya, Samadhi, and Prajna. It's good if you know those words, whether you know the Pali or the Sanskrit, they're very close. For instance, the word Sila in Pali for morality or discipline is Shila with an SH in Sanskrit. Of course, Sanskrit is actually the mother language, isn't it? And Pali is a derivative from Sanskrit. So it's good if you get to know those words. We already know a lot of them because we use them in English these days. The word Buddha, for instance, the word Dharma, for instance. And so it's good if we can utilize our language to learn the Dharma and then share the Dharma, but also be able to go back to the original as well. For instance, the word metta, or in Sanskrit, maitri. This is a multifaceted word when you compare it to English, translated to English. Doesn't just mean loving kindness, even though we use those words. Doesn't just mean kindness, doesn't just mean love. Now, of course, it's universal because it can be developed beyond measure. It's an immeasurable. But right now, it's for us maybe limited because we're not perfect yet. Yet being a very important word there. And, it includes things that I mentioned before, the meditation on occasions. It includes friendliness and non-violence, honesty, and the like. Acceptance, forgiveness, all of these, even though they have their own words as well, but metta includes all of these. And so that's why it's good to have to understand, or at least know these words. It's a simple word, metta, but it has many meanings in English, or many aspects in English. Okay, so we are obviously talking as well about developing the Bodhicitta, the altruistic mind of compassion, wishing that all living beings attain enlightenment and helping them to do so. Obviously, we ourselves to attain enlightenment for their benefit. We can't attain enlightenment, full enlightenment of a Buddha for our own benefit. That's selfish, isn't it? How can we develop this limitless compassion that is needed along with the supreme wisdom? When this bodhicitta, this relative bodhicitta, and the wisdom are unified and perfected, or I should say perfected and unified maybe, and then this is what we call ultimate bodhicitta. This is also enlightenment. SammaSambuddhassa, or Anuttara, Samyak Sambodhi in Sanskrit. And so today, as promised, we'll talk about briefly the 4 immeasurables, which is we need to develop this metta, this karuna, universal compassion, this mudita, universal empathetic joy, and upekkha, the mind of equanimity, non-biased mind. Of course, the other three are based on this equanimity. Otherwise, our metta, or universal loving kindness, universal compassion, and universal empathetic joy would be biased, and so they wouldn't be immeasurable. So we need to develop these, and we need to practice these, obviously, to develop them. And this is one way to develop bodhicitta. Obviously, the 6 paramitas too. We've already discussed that over a long period of time now. We've actually gone into quite a lot of detail, and especially the classes, the recent classes on wisdom, went into a lot of detail. Some of it quite deep, it's quite profound. And so now we're going back to talk about really how to practice as well. Okay, yes, the other classes obviously how to practice generosity and so forth, but this one now is these 4 immeasurables, known in Pali and Sanskrit as Brahmavihara. Okay, this means sublime abodes, mental abodes, and so we need to develop these. Another way to develop this bodhicitta, you can practice either one of these methods, or both of them, is known as the 7-point cause and effect practice. I like to call it 7 points for training the mind in bodhicitta. But the translation from the original is more accurate to say that the 7-point cause and effect practice or method. Okay, so we'll start with the 4 immeasurables because we've already had some commentary on these, and so I won't stay on them too long. And so universal loving kindness on a relative level is the antidote for hatred, isn't it? For unfriendliness. Because universal loving kindness is the opposite of hatred and dislike and the like. Compassion is the antidote, the relative antidote for giving up cruelty, the wishing that others be harmed, and so forth. Empathetic joy is the antidote for jealousies and envy, because we are working to have joy, have empathy for others, and also take joy in their successes. Whether the successes be to do with the Dharma path or worldly activities. And of course, the mind of equanimity, this helps us to give up bias and prejudice. Interesting word, that prejudice. Prejudge. I think they're the root words. So when we are prejudiced, we are judging. Pre means before, doesn't it? So we are judging before we know something or somebody. Now that's my own spin on it. I didn't look that up in the dictionary. That came from contemplation in the temple in the USA many years ago. I was contemplating this prejudice and thought prejudging. So we should avoid doing that, because as examples that I've used many times before, it's like we are looking at the sky and thinking we're seeing all of the sky, when all we're looking at it may be a cloud. It's atmospheric conditions, depending on where you're looking at it from as well. It's like you think you know the ocean from the small part of the ocean that you can see, for instance, and then you judge it. But that's not realistic, is it? It's bias. We have bias towards things that we find pleasing, and maybe those people, those sort of living beings that you feel have been kind to you, maybe actually they're brushing your ego, maybe complimenting you, making you feel puffed up sometimes. And also then we have, that's attachment. And then of course we have the bias against things that we find unpleasant, and maybe those people or those living beings that we're scared of or that have put us down, attacked us, then we have some sort of aversion towards them. So you can see that this mind of equanimity helps us to give up this attachment and aversion. And then, of course, this mind of equanimity is based on understanding, wisdom. Then from this mind of equanimity, then our universal loving kindness, the wish for all living beings to be happy and have the causes of happiness, becomes non-biased and then not limited, and then that can be developed beyond measure, boundless. This universal compassion that wishes for all living beings to be free from suffering and the causes of suffering then becomes non-biased. And then we can take action as well to cause happiness for beings and to help them be free from suffering. And then, like I said, we won't have bias to those beings that, normally we have attachment, like I said, to beings that we find pleasing and aversion from those we may find repulsive or we get angry with or something like that. And normally we don't want them to be happy. And and also want the happiness only for those that we find pleasing. This is bias. But with a mind of equanimity, this joy, this empathy, the success of others, we take joy in, and it's non-biased. So think about that from your own point of view as well, not only from doing it to benefit others, obviously, but think how nice it would feel for you to not have this biased mind. You will be more joyful, have more empathy. You will be freeing yourself from suffering. You will be causing happiness, both temporary happiness as well as working your way to the Mahasukha, the great happiness. So I think that's enough for the 4 immeasurables right now. Just before we move on to the 7-point cause and effect method, I thought that I'd mention the 6 paramitas again, just very briefly. Generosity is the antidote for selfishness, self-centeredness, for greed and the like. Morality is the antidote for bad behavior, any types of bad behavior of your mind, your body, and your speech. And also we don't feel guilty, don't have this negative clinging remorse for doing bad things. Patience, obviously, is the antidote that helps to give up anger and then reacting upon this anger, frustration. Effort is the antidote for laziness and other related mind states. Concentration is the antidote for an agitated mind, a confused mind, and a dull mind. And of course, wisdom is the ultimate antidote that uproots ignorance, that is the cause of all of our mental afflictions. Okay, so that'll do for that. I just wanted to mention that as antidotes, even though we've spoken about it, I think in the introduction to this talk, but that was quite a while ago now. And so the 7-point cause and effect practice or method, or like I said, the 7 points for training the mind in bodhicitta. Number 1, recognizing all beings as one's mother. Now, some people think that's, I'm using imagination. Of course you're using imagination. You can't know that yet 100%. But look at it from the other side. How is it not possible? If you believe in the law of karma, if you have an understanding of the law of karma, then you also will have an understanding and belief in rebirth. And when does it begin? When does it end? Of course, the rebirth ends when we attain enlightenment. But where did it begin? Beginningless time, we say, endless time. How can there be a stop Oh, it begins here. But what about all of that time before? Or it ends here. What about all of that infinite time after? I remember as a kid, I used to have this thought, because some religions, they believe that, there's only one life. But then I looked at it and went, but how come everybody is different? There has to be karma, cause and effect. We have to cause these differences. The good stuff, the bad stuff, the indifferent stuff. The type of rebirth that we have and the type of life that we have has to come from before. And then what did that one come from? Has to come from before. Why are things impermanent? Due to cause and effect. So in previous lives and into the future, we have parents. You have mothers and fathers. Now, mothers is what we're talking about here because the mother carries us in the womb. That's why we say, perceive all sentient beings as our mother. Now, recognize, actually, that's the word. It's really recognize. In other words, recognize, re-understand. We've known this before. Now we're relearning it. The living beings, all of them have been our mother. At very least, you can say our relatives, or at very, very least, we have been in each other's lives before. I think that's obvious. Okay, so if the living beings have been our mother, even those ones that we find really like enemies to us, maybe they've harmed us a lot. They have been our mother in a previous life. So try your best not to fight back. Sometimes in life, we have to remove ourselves from situations. But still, with your mind, extend the love and kindness to these beings. Extend the compassion, because they have been your mother. Would you harm your mother right now? No. And even if for people that have had difficult relationships with your mother and father and the like, then actually you still should extend a loving kindness, because think about this, they have given birth to you. You have this life because of them. So I'll mention a few points now because it's up to number 2. I won't go into any more detail with that because I'm sure that we'll talk about these things even more, related to the law of karma and so forth. There's quite a few questions that have come over time, of which I will address in the coming weeks. Okay, I think we have another 4 minutes. So being mindful of their kindness of producing our body, as just mentioned. It's very difficult going through the gestation period and the pregnancy and then giving birth. Some of you know this for sure. Giving life without letting us die, because the human baby is helpless, not like some other creatures maybe. Maybe they can walk even straight away. We can't. We rely upon our mother for sure to feed us, to make sure that we don't die. So producing the body and then giving us life without letting us die, and also then providing us with material needs such as food and clothing, etc. Also showing us the ways of the world, so teaching us how to live, teaching us how to eat, teaching us how to talk, do mathematics, etc. Helping us go through schooling. Number 3 is wishing to repay their kindness. So we want to be kind to them because they have been kind to us, even if it's self-centered now still. We need to make the effort to be kind, at very least to avoid harming and avoid being cruel towards. Then number 4, heartfelt love, wishing for their happiness. I won't elaborate on that because I've already spoken about it in the four immeasurables that we just spoke about before, about the metta, loving kindness. Compassion, number 5, wishing that they be free from suffering. This is the same as the compassion that we want to develop and practice in the four immeasurables. Number 6, resolute intention. This is the Bodhicitta intention, ultimately. So really have the intention in your mind to do these, to practice this, to practice recognizing all beings as one's mother, to practice being mindful of their kindness, wishing to repay their kindness, having the wish that they be happy and free from suffering. Have this intention in your mind as the basis. And also have faith in the result of this practice. So test it for yourself, and you will see that it works. It really works immediately. And then, of course, as you practice more, the results become more clear as well. So in the beginning, look at the good qualities of this practice and then really put them into practice, like emulate them. And then, of course, then you will have a conviction. You'll free yourself from any doubts of this practice being good. Okay, so that's based on perfect faith eventually. We're under 1 minute. It goes by so quick, but I love spending the time with you. And I appreciate that you give up your time for you when we do it live, for those who participate, however small the number, and also those who listen to and watch the video later on Facebook and also on the YouTube channel. So I rejoice in your goodness, as always, in your meritorious goodness. Do your best to study well, practice well, share the Dharma well, radiate it well, and not too tired, not too loose, not too much, not too little. Be kind to yourself.